Welcome back to the Isaac Abrams Show, everybody. I am your host, Isaac Abrams. Today's very special guest, MICAH Brenner. He is a storyboard artist. He worked on King Kong versus Godzilla. He worked on, for your kids, the Minecraft movie as a storyboard artist. We met a number of years ago when I first moved to Los Angeles, and I was a production assistant, and he worked on the team for Chris Applebaum, who is known for his sexy burger commercials. We've stayed dear friends over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, I should call him a philanthropist as well. I'll call everybody a philanthropist. Please welcome to the show, MICAH Brenner.
I do love philanthropy in terms of offering super sexy hamburger commercials to the world. Right. I think it does us better.
We are better people for having sold tits and burgers at the same time.
That's right. That's right. When the war of the sexes is over, we will be tried as war criminals, but that's fine. It's great.
In this episode, guys, we talk about MICAH's storyboard career. We talk about, most importantly, his new book coming out that he is crowdfunding right now, Dino Duties, if you have small children. And at the end, we talk about his personal coaching career, and he, for the first time, got me to potentially agree to sign up for some coaching. So it's not what you think it is. Watch the whole episode. MICAH, thank you for your time. It was a great chat, and please enjoy the episode, guys. We'll see you next time. If you're joining us right now for the first time and you wonder who the hell MICAH Brenner is, MICAH and I met back when I was a production assistant and he was working on Chris Applebaum's team. We were doing a lot of music videos together. This was back in my band days. And we met on set, and we would meet at after parties and rap parties. MICAH has been a huge influence in my spiritual life, even though I'd have never told him that before.
Oh, man.
Huge influence spiritually.
Thanks, man.
I look to him for some spiritual guidance sometimes, and he's influenced my choices on which churches to attend and like which books to read about my spirituality. So love having you here.
And which ones not to attend. And and it should be noted that Chris Applebaum is a Music Video Hall of Fame director, and he was not directing your band's videos because there's no way that you could afford him.
He offered to do it for free.
That's awesome, and it would have been great, except you would have been like probably wearing really tight leather and like lip gloss and like would have been a great video. The
advantage of having Applebaum direct our video was that he would have gotten a woman that we would never have been able to attain to be the love interest of probably our lead singer, Craig. And the video would have gotten views based off of her assets.
That's true. And him, because he also starred in was a Miley Cyrus video, right?
Craig was the DJ in Party in the USA. Thanks to John Harden, who was directing Second Unit and the producer of that video, as well as me. I was running like the third unit or whatever on that show.
That's right. That's right. And I storyboarded it. Not that it needed it and not that anyone should see them. They were really bad back then. But what they did give to your band was some really great alternative band names. I remember that.
That's true. Snake Eyes. Was one
Stroke Booth.
Stroke Booth was I can't believe you remember that. Harden actually made a logo for Stroke Booth and sent it to us.
Excellent.
So shout out to...
My favorite was Pancetta. I thought that was...
Yes. I never understood that reference.
I think that it's like harmless, but it sounds like a metal group. Like I think you had to change your sound a little bit, but...
Yeah, I've always thought it had a reference to famunda or like some type of area near one's genitalia involving cheese. But I could be wrong. That's just my impression of it.
That was a level I wasn't ready to go to then. I feel like I'm ready now.
Yeah. But since those days, MICAH has since moved to Austin. Be not fooled, he did not go in the wave of the comedian flood down to Austin. No. Not a comedian himself, but very funny. But right off the bat, what I'd love to get into, if you're okay with it, is talking about your new book project, so we can get people involved in that right away.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. So I have got a Kickstarter campaign live. At the time of recording, we've got like 7 days left. So the deadline is Wednesday the 13th. I don't know if this is going to be out in time, but we are raising money on Kickstarter for a book called Dino Duties. So if you just search Dino Duties, spelled D-U-T-I-E-S, That's the book 1. Book 3 is going to be Duties, Doodies, which is obviously about potty training. But it's a kid's book about a little kid. He wakes up in the body of a dinosaur, and he has to help himself get ready for school in the morning because his mom doesn't know how to take care of a dinosaur, so he's got to figure it out. And it's like a way to give kids some ownership of their morning routine. We did it with my kid. If you have kids, the more autonomy you can give them, the better your own life gets. And so he would one day I just storyboarded his morning routine because I was on a plane and I needed to draw something. And so we put that in his bedroom, and next thing you know, he was just doing his whole morning routine without any urging or cajoling or like cattle prodding. And he came downstairs. He's like, "Dad, I did my dino duties." And I was like, "Hey, we can market this." So, check it out. There's a really great video on there that my buddy edited. Slobodan Gajic is not a terrorist, but actually an editor. Thank you. And it explains the project, and you can get on at the ground floor and pledge. And once that's done, there's going to be 2 more books. I've got a little detective series that I'm cooking up about a couple of dog detectives that solve dog crimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that have a name yet?
It does. It's called Binkus and Wigwam. And that's the names of the 2 dogs. Not their actual names that people gave them, but their dog names that they actually, self-identify as. So.
And is the dog book coming out after the dino book?
It'll be down the road. So after the dino book gets launched and we sell that, and I get that out to customers and I get those going, the dog detectives are the next property, as I'm generating it. And hopefully that one's going to be episodic. I feel like CSI dog book, children,
opportunity
goes on
to
forever.
Expand. Yeah.
That's right. They can go to Miami, they can go to Vegas.
Yeah.
They can go to preschool.
Now, back to the dino book. When you said you storyboarded your son's morning routine, did you put those up on the wall as individual squares? Was it will the book be tear out and you can write down what the dino duties are for the day? Can you put that on the wall?
Yeah, well, that's going to be one of the things. If we hit the stretch goal, we're going to make a chart that is one that you can customize and make for yourself and put up, as well as stickers and stuff. And so what I did for my kid was I just black and white storyboards real quick, like I would for a client, and then just printed them out and put them up. And then he colored them in, and he puts them in the order he wants them. And what's cool about that is kids don't own anything. Everything they have, everything my son has is mine. Even the toys that are his, those are mine. And anything, if he, they can be taken away or cleaned up or disappeared when he's not looking because they go to a garage sale or whatever. But these chores, not chores, they're opportunities, sort of, they're responsibilities. And those are actually his. And so he gets to own them, and he gets to develop some character and some autonomy and some responsibility. And I expected him to not be into it, but for him to I don't know, he loved it. They were his dino duties, truly. And nobody can take that away. And there's a lesson for all of us in that somewhere, about undertaking, personal growth and responsibility, and that that no entity can really take that away from us. So,
do you remember the first time in your own life that you realized that your parents had purchased everything and you really didn't own anything?
Oh, it was early. My dad was super authoritarian, so I got stuff taken away like crazy. It was early, I think.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know. I think I was over 10, but I remember going, man, none of this is really my stuff. This is I have to rely on another human. I remember not liking that feeling, and I remember going out and getting a job as soon as I could to be able to have my own stuff.
Yeah, dude. So that's, I think because we're really similar in age, and like I had a job, but the moment I could legally get a paycheck, I went and got one. And I feel like I meet people all the time that are 24 and getting their first job ever. Like they've never encountered filling out an application, like having a job, getting a pay, and answering to a boss. They've just been in school and like doing extracurricular activities like their whole life. And also people don't get driver's licenses anymore. Have you noticed that?
I haven't. I haven't really been checking on like the teen driving license percentage. It hasn't really been in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, when you move out of Los Angeles, suddenly you meet people with like our own age with adult children.
Yeah.
Like,
I do meet quite a few of them on the road. In fact, the last 2 weeks of shows, people have been bringing their 11 and 12-year-olds to the theaters, and you don't find out that there's minors in the audience until after the show, and then you reevaluate what you said on stage for adults.
Yeah, nice.
And you're like, oof, are you sorry, did I ruin? And they're always like, this kid's got his own phone, he's seen worse.
Yeah, so that's my theory on why kids don't get driver's licenses, because for me, and I expect for you, like the first time my life and my independence and my social network expanded beyond like what I could be chaperoned into was when I got a driver's license. But like now, if you're a kid, it's when you get a phone, because as soon as you get a phone, you're like, I'm my own man. Like I can cruise the whole planet and nobody's monitoring my interactions, and like, why drive? Like, why bother? I can like hang out with my friends on my thumbs.
That is interesting. Yeah, we didn't have, I mean, the internet existed in the early to mid 90s, but it was super slow and it was dial-up.
Oh, yeah.
And it was chat rooms.
Yeah.
It just felt like the only thing that you could do to get your own freedom was to get your own car and go pick up your friends and go somewhere. I mean, my personal world was no more than a 3-mile radius around the circle of my house or my high school.
Right.
Because anything outside of that was outer space. Even though my car had the ability to go, it didn't, I mean, look, a full tank of gas and an 83 Buick Regal would get you, 150 miles? But like, what's out there, like,
well, and you're going to get lost like wherever you go, because you couldn't just go to the place like on your first try. Someone would have to tell you where it is. You have to drive to the street, find the cross street and drive, and then like circle it a few times. And then like maybe you wouldn't find it when you wanted to go there. And so you'd have to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. And my range was also limited financially, because gas, even though it was $1 a gallon in the 90s, it was still going into an 83 Buick Regal. And, we would be very specific. Like if we're getting in the car, we're not going cruising unless somebody wanted to fund it. I was like, we're going to specifically go here or go there. And then I got just enough gas to get home and I get a check tomorrow and then I can refill. And being broke will make you, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll help you develop a sense of like time economy, I guess.
Yeah, very much.
You said that you made these storyboards for your son. Was that the aha moment for the inspiration to make this a book so it can benefit other people's children?
It was, I shared the images because I just needed fodder to share, and they were cute and people like kid stuff. And so I put them out there in the world, just, LinkedIn and Instagram. And I got so many responses of people saying, this would be awesome for my kid. And I hope that they have pledged after saying that, because it's their fault that I'm doing this largely. But, I had thought about doing some kind of kids book for a long time and didn't know where to start, really. I love it's funny to talk about loving them as an adult, but now that I have to read them over and over and over again, Harold the Purple Crayon is awesome. Just one of the all-time great stories. Like Where the Wild Things Are is so good. And then like Ferdinand is awesome. That one's black and white. Like it's just ink and it's so great. It's like, it's sort of like what I love about working on commercials. Usually it's just like kind of, you're grinding out a paycheck. None of us are mistaken, and we know that we're not like creating great art. But what's awesome about it is like if you're gonna tell a story in 22 seconds, even if it's a mediocre, just a run-of-the-mill commercial that someone's gonna mute, like getting a concise story delivered in 22 seconds is an awesome exercise in storytelling,
yes.
like in your craft. And so children's books are cool because like your diction is limited, your attention span is limited, your page count is limited, your words per page is limited. In that way, it's almost like it's like a haiku or something where it's
sure.
like really it's not insanely rigid because kids are pretty relaxed, but you really need to craft something intentional and concise. And so anyway, this emerged as an opportunity to like, hey, here's an idea that not only is it fun, and everybody who doesn't like dinosaurs, but it proved to be functional with my kid, like getting him to do his chores. The idea of like, let's go from 0, which is you're like a high maintenance, sack of potatoes, to you're dressing yourself, brushing your own teeth, going to the bathroom, coming downstairs, like ready to go. I thought it was going to be months or years. And it was like, it was almost overnight.
Wow.
It's like, like he saw the pictures and he's like, I can do that. So
I'm having this thought for the first time because I'm childless. I'm barren. I have no children.
Well, you have no uterus.
That's true. Maybe I'll get one.
Not since the accident.
That's right.
Yeah.
Does a children's book have to be read in one sitting? Like, does it have to go front to back? Is that when you were talking about being concise, I never thought about like telling a story, or does it have to be just long enough for the kid to fall asleep before the end of the book? Like I'm thinking of nighttime story time, putting them to bed. That seems like the only time you would want to read to a child. That's not true.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the kid. It depends on the parent. We have like bookish little kids, and my daughter is far from reading. She's not even verbal. She's like 3 and has Down syndrome, and she still like is in books all the time. So, and that's her doing. Mm-hmm. But my kids have yet to fall asleep to a story. I feel like falling asleep to a story maybe is the kind of thing you're talking about, where it's like, it's long, you're not going to get to the end of it in a single sitting. Like no one's fallen asleep to Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Got it. Which I haven't read. I haven't read Harold in quite some time, if ever.
Well, the audiobook is short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that one of those? Do you play audiobooks for your children?
No. Well, we just started Harry Potter with my oldest Calvin. He's 5.5, and like we had tried before. He likes radio plays and stuff where there's like multiple characters and sound design, but he's just now getting to where he can listen to a narrative and be engaged, be interested.
Yeah. Do you find that helps him? Like if you play him the audiobook of book 1 to establish the characters and have him visualize that, do you think that will help him with his comprehension of if he started to read book 2? The reason I'm asking that is because I attempted to read the first Lord of the Rings book to no avail, because they hit you with 40 names in the beginning of the book, and they're all very long biblical style names. And I was like, good luck. Yeah. So then I went and watched the first film, and I really enjoyed reading the second and third books.
Okay, because you were like, yeah, there's 3. Technically, if I can nerd out, there's 6.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because each one's broken into 2. But so very few of your fans are going to appreciate the fact that I know that.
I mean, I started with Lord of the Rings and then went backwards to the Hobbit.
The Hobbit, yeah.
But
so the Hobbit is a children's book originally.
Yeah.
Which is funny because you read that to a modern kid, and it's like, I don't know if the general use of language has descended to a point that no child is going to be able to read it, because I feel like most adults are not going to read it. But I tried to read it to my son, and I was like, there's like crazy vocabulary in here. Maybe you just need to be like a 1930s English child, and then
English being like the UK English, like
yeah.
That is interesting to think about, like how our vocabulary has changed over the generations. Does it seem like it's gotten less literary?
Dude, for sure.
Dude, for sure is the best answer to that
Right.
question.
Dude, for sure.
Gnarly, bro. Yeah.
3 syllables, 3 words, done, in and out.
Yes.
Well, another thing I've noticed is that like all of my grown-up friends' favorite books are young adult fiction. Like, I mean, granted, I didn't have a bunch of teenage friends when The Hunger Games was big, but all of my like fully grown career woman friends were reading the shit out of Hunger Games, and I was like, that's great. That's written for 13-year-olds. You can read other stuff.
Right.
But that was it. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, it was always like adult women were reading like romance novels for
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
There's less fantasy. But then when I think about Twilight, or not Twilight, when I think of Hunger Games, I also think of Twilight and Harry Potter.
Oh, for sure.
Because people are like, oh, I'm done reading them. I'll reread them.
Right.
And it's like, okay. Like for me, if I've seen a movie, I've seen it. If I've read it, I've read it. The only thing I've ever reread is Jack White's 6 or 8 book series on the Arthurian age, which is the hardest word for me to say.
Like Jack White, like the White Stripes?
No, yes, a different spelling with a Y, Whyte, British cat. He started with King Arthur's great grandfather. There was a movie with Channing Tatum in it called The Eagle, which closely represents like the first or second book, but they're not affiliated. I think they just stole the story from Jack.
Okay.
But it's
I mean, Jack didn't make up the story though.
No, but he did. I think he created a lot, like 200 or 300 years of backstory about how Camelot came to be, finding like the moonstone in the bottom of a lake, draining the lake, crafting the sword, putting it in the stone. Hundreds of years of like, Camelot's not even like the city on the hill. Camelot is a cabin off in the woods 100 miles away that he would go retire to collect his thoughts.
Nice.
Anyway,
I want a Camelot.
Yes, very interesting series of books. They're 500 or 600 pages apiece. There's 6 or 8 of them. It starts with the Saxon shore, I think.
All right, I'm gonna write that down because I need some more fiction.
Yeah, they're. I think they're 6 or 8 bucks a piece at. Well, they were when I bought them in the early 2000s, but that's my favorite series. That's what I've reread. That was the long way of saying I reread one thing.
Yeah, one thing, and that's it.
That's all you need. You need to pick one thing and reread it.
And then, what do you get? What part of that from Jack White has like instilled itself in you that merits rereading?
For me,
why is it like?
For me, it's his take on Merlin. Merlin was always represented as like a magician, and he uses the way that he writes about Merlin is more of a calculated scientist, and he's using like smoke and mirrors as opposed to like potion magic, where he was just out-calculated everyone, and he was like, this is how people believe, I'm going to use this against them. So that really resonated with me, where it was like, you can take a popular misconception, flip it on its ear, and gain an advantage mentally over people, and they'll think that you're a wizard.
Yes, that reminds me of like the quote, I think it's Arthur C. Clarke, that said any technology that's sufficiently advanced will seem like magic. Is that kind of the thing? Is that it's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's totally it. Do you have anything that you've read or like been exposed to that resonates with you in a similar way? Not necessarily magic, but like you read something and it was like, man, this is really at my core. Like this is the stuff I really enjoy.
It's I think for me, it's like anything C.S. Lewis has written. And I have not read everything that I haven't read everything he's written, because I'm sure there's like postcards and stuff out there that nobody's read except whoever they were sent to. But like everything that's been published of his, I think I've read, except for like two things that come to mind. And I've reread every single one of his that I have read. And so there's something about his mixture of the completely fantastical and abstract and like the pagan and the mystic, along with his unbelievably rational, analytical mind and the orthodoxy that he also brings to, like, whether it's Christianity or whether it's social topics or whatever he writes on. I feel like he's just got all of the left brain and the right brain going on. And the way he relates it, like there's so much character in his narrative, that I don't know. I try to take his books and as much as I can know about him through his work and internalize it as much as I can. Like I had in a thread, I was contributing a thought to somebody's statement in the thread, and they made the comment like, "Oh, that was like very C.S. Lewisian or something," and that was like the biggest compliment I had ever received on like a thought was that. And so yeah, that I think his stuff and his nonfiction too, like and maybe especially his nonfiction, is just like stupendous. But so I'm interested. So like why I'm interested in like what you take away from that, what you put in you. I remember sitting in a theater watching one of the Avengers movies on opening night. Mm-hmm. And so we're sitting there, and I'm there with a couple of friends, and there's like those, really obnoxious talking like on their phone guys behind us.
Yeah.
And they were recording like a really cool, surprising plot point and sending it to their friends to spoil it for them. And in that moment, I was like, here we are. We're watching like this mythic telling of the greatest heroes saving the world, demonstrating like valor and character and self-sacrifice. And what you're taking away from it is, oh, this is an opportunity to selfishly ruin an experience for my friends.
Right.
And I was like, what part of the story are you here for?
I don't know if I think we've been exposed to so many people that are passionate about storytelling, having worked in the film business for so long, that it's tough for us to relate or understand that some people don't dive into anything deeper than the surface level of the story, which it is super hard. Like I find myself when I speak to people like you or other writers that are, like really go 6, 7, 8, 10 levels deep about the meaning of the message. I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like I never would have picked up on that. Like I feel like I can go a couple of levels deep in meaning and like subtext. But there are some people who just want to watch the explosions or watch Iron Man blow some shit up. And then, I'm going to talk during this movie, or I'm going to ruin it for someone else, or I'm only interested in my experience and how I feel. And I got high before this movie and I'm not even going to remember it. So I can go see it again, or I can watch it again when it comes out. It's, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I stay away from the movie theaters. I will wait months to watch something at home when I can pause it, make a snack, go to the bathroom, not be interrupted by somebody else. But I did have a recent guest on for my Halloween episode that said that sometimes when people talk through movies, it's because that's how they traumatically respond. Like if they're scared of a scene, they're like, no, don't go in there. Don't go in there. That's them like dealing with the trauma of the scared part of the film. But I don't think that's really what we're getting at here.
Yeah, but maybe you're right. Like if I was going to extend the benefit of the doubt, well, for one thing, I think you're right. I think a lot of people, they're like, just show, do the show, like just impress me. And I believe that on some level they are receiving whatever that virtuous, heroic message is. They just might not know it. But like, what comes to mind is like my wife works for DreamWorks, but everyone, like they conflate DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, so like everyone, when they're introducing her to someone, they'll be like, oh yeah, and she works on Pixar movies or whatever. And it's like, and they're not dumb people, and it's not like they consume a lot of this material and they love it, but it's all just sort of like, I don't know, it's material, and it's maybe it's a really small part of their lives. It's just a really big part of our lives,
Yeah, and much like there are big parts of those people's lives that we might not understand. In my personal situation, I don't really relate to people who are super duper into sports and memorizing stats and watching every single game, but being a fan of one team, but having to watch every single other team play to see how that affects their team. It's just not, they go into like, oh, if this guy does this move, then this other guy does this other thing. It's chess for them, and storytelling is our thing. Kind of, it's not just our thing, but like I look at it too in other ways where it's like I see like young cinematographers or young directors, and I'm like, man, I've been doing this for a very long time and I still don't know everything. And then I watch some young brilliant cat show up and they're like, oh, if we shot it over here and we lit it like this, then we're gonna have this amazing scene. And it's, some people just fall into it and they get it right away and you're very impressed, and some people have to spend a little bit more time, like myself, like wrapping my head around it. Like I think I've plateaued as far as cinematography goes, but I only got into it to learn, like, to be a videographer also on the road. But like, I want to know enough to be able to communicate with a professional director of photography in words that they're used to being communicated in, so that they can help my film or my piece look better. I by no means would ever dare to sit behind the camera on a professionally shot project and call it good. I think I'm good enough to shoot YouTube videos is about where I'm at. And I don't know if even if I studied, if my 10 years of study would get me better than just hiring a guy fresh out of film school who just finished studying. Does that make sense? We're kind of going off on a different tangent here, but
but I think you're on to something interesting that can maybe like parlay into like some of my other experience, and where I do have some believability but like, for one thing, I suspect you're playing a little bit small towards yourself, but also there was something that I experienced because I went to an acting conservatory, because like most people who wind up in production, or maybe just people that are narcissistic like me, like they came here to be actors and then they found something else. Or like you came here to be a musician, you found something else.
Correct.
I was in this acting conservatory. I was at CalArts, and we would workshop these scenes, and our only audience was other actors in the workshop in the scene. And so they're like nitpicking every little thing. Whereas if like an audience member, if someone else in the world was watching it, they wouldn't have seen any of the shit we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so like what I suspect is that your skill set is obviously professional and above average professional, but you're comparing yourself to people that like are uber specialists, and this is their art form, this is what they do. Like, and the short way of saying that, I guess, would be like, if you look at a bell curve, like you're way up above on the curve, but now the people that are around you are like getting insanely excellent.
Right. It'd be like if your hobby was basketball and you're comparing yourself to LeBron, but you were also a very good basketball player.
And so at some point, going from 300th best in the world to 200th best in the world is going to be way harder than going from like 10th best in the world to 9th best in the world.
Exactly. And in my case, I'm looking at it as like 100,000th best in the world to like, what's the value out of me going to 70,000th best in the world? And I'm enough to be dangerous, and I got what I needed out of it. I can help. I can communicate with the people on the crew that I need to help, and it gets me where I need to go when I need to tell a story. So
and there's also this insane value to being to that cultural fit, like you're talking about. It's like you can speak the language, and like you can deliver the thing that someone wants in the way they asked for it, using the language they asked for it in. And like, as a storyboard artist, I'm like, I don't know, I'm above average in my artistic ability for like my peer group that I'm competing for jobs with. I think I'm in the upper 70 to 80 percentile.
Sure.
Yeah, for this very specific art form, which is fast, like sketch rendering. And but I get jobs like I get pretty awesome jobs, and I think that it's more to do with the fact that I can speak cinematic language, and I'm super cool to deal with deadlines and changes. I don't take any of it personally. I can articulate well on a call. I normally I'm gonna open that. I'm a little bit better lit than this usually, so it's easier to like see me and talk to me. And so like I think that goes a long way. It like takes a product or like a skill set that's pretty good, and it augments it with something that is, well, because ultimately we're creating a consumable commercial product,
Right.
and if it isn't that, then your skill isn't good for anything. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. You know?
Yeah, and most of the time it's not a one-person sport.
Yeah.
We have to
Thank
deal
God.
with sound. We have to deal with lighting. We have to deal with multiple people. I want to segue into the coaching thing, because I think what you just touched on was like meeting people where they're at, communicating in words that people can hear. My resounding theme over the last like 6 months has been like, I've had a comedy mentor that's taken me on the road. I work for him. I do his video. He gives me stage time. It's a mutually beneficial trade. And he's taught me lessons in comedy many times, but he has changed the wording of how he's teaching me these lessons, and sometimes it resonates and it sticks, and I'm like, I totally understand what you're saying now. Those are words that I can understand. It's basically been my theme song for the last 4 months when someone's communicating with me and they're like, I've told you this 50 times, and I'm like, okay, can you say it in a new way? They say it in a new way, and I go, I fully understand you now. If we could segue into your coaching, if now's a good time to do that. How did you learn how to meet people where they're at? Or is that even a thing that's part of your coaching? Do you find that you find some like resistance when you're communicating with some of your coachees? What do you call your clients?
Yeah, I mean clients. Coachees is nice because it sounds close to coaches.
Yeah, that's right.
The character. What's hard for me is I'm really, really opinionated, and I love data, and I love facts, and I love being right. I know nobody else in the world or in your audience likes being right. We're all really comfortable with admitting when we're wrong, and that's why social media is such a positive and edifying place. But coming at it with like curiosity. And so as soon as I encounter someone, if I'm in like a receptive mind state, if I'm thinking about them instead of thinking about me, is just curiosity. And it requires sort of unhinging almost everything that I think is correct, and then depending really hard on some core values that I know are right, like with a capital R, like good and true and beautiful in the world. And then all the other stuff, you just kind of go like, okay, but I might be wrong about everything else. And so let me just get curious. And then I had really good training through the Meta Performance Institute. You can check it out at mp.institute. In applying a couple of principles and a couple of tools, a couple of methods of inquiry. It's just Socratic inquiry at the end of the day. And just getting curious and asking questions. And then the person meets themselves where they're at. And I just happen to be there.
So it's helping them say the words in their own voice and unlocking those thoughts. And when someone says the lesson they need to hear through their own voice, it helps them achieve a new level. Is that level's not the right word?
I mean, level, sure. Yeah. I mean, they know it. Something resonates. And at the end of the day, I think we all at least suspect, if not know, the thing that we could be doing that we're choosing not to. Mm. And we invent really compelling stories about why it's not possible, or why it should happen on another day, or why it's someone else's responsibility and not mine. And guilty as charged. Like everything.
Same.
I do all right. Like I have all of our coaches in our firm are coached by each other as we go out. I mean, it would be like seeing a dentist that didn't have a dentist. You'd be like,
gotcha. Or a therapist that didn't have a therapist.
Like, yeah. Right. Yeah. You want them to, and so, because I can't physician heal thyself. Like I can't do that. So
Yeah.
it's like reading a screenplay. Like I can edit the hell out of your screenplay, but mine is like garbage.
Same.
And,
Yeah.
So
Can I ask you a couple of questions about like how you got into coaching? Because my personal experience with the people that have approached me about coaching is that they started with a coach and that person got them to the point where they could then coach. And I don't want this next statement to feel disrespectful, but it may come off a little rough.
Yeah.
It seems a little multi-level marketing to
100%.
in the experiences that I have had, and I'm not saying that that's how you and your team approach it, but how do you how did you get into it? Because you don't seem like someone that would do multi-level marketing or fall for any of that. So it seems like when I hear that you're doing it, it seems legit to me, and I would love to hear about like how you got into it.
I think my outfit is legit, but I don't think it's legit. Like it's like yoga instructors in Los Angeles is like most of them are just out of work actors that are like really flexible and they can pretend to be yoga instructors.
Right. Are you saying the industry as a whole is like the yoga, or like your people?
The industry as a whole, because there is no certification for yoga instructors.
Okay. And
certifications for coaching are invented by the institutions that create the certification. And so like I'm certified with my institution, but what does that mean? Like, it's not like we don't have to submit to like a medical board or something. And so, especially I think in Los Angeles, New York, like big cities with a lot of transient population coming in and out of the city, it's ripe for charlatanry, and any jerk can be a coach, as evidenced by like the fact that I say I am one. Right. But you want to know what their approach is, what their history is, what their like results they've gotten from some of their clients, endorsements from their clients, because and I expect this to change in the next 10 or 20 years. Like I expect sooner or later there's going to be some sweet lawsuit where some like jerk off, shoot from the hip coach told somebody to do something crazy. Like if you've ever seen the Nexium documentary on HBO.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That was multi-level marketing. They told people what to do with their lives. There was all kinds of things going on that were super toxic, and they were an executive coaching firm supposedly. And so I avoided getting into it. I had people that I really loved and really respected, and they were coaches, and I thought it was a multi-level marketing thing. And so I didn't want to ask them about it because I didn't want to stop respecting them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at some point I had a couple of other friends that did go ahead and ask them about it and joined and started working on it. And they said, "Hey, I think you'd like this. I think you'd be really good at it. Come check it out." And so I stuck my toe in to figure out if it was multi-level marketing or not. I think it can be. I think many firms often are. And I mean, if that's working for someone, great. Like I know some people that do Mary Kay and Amway and stuff like that, and they love it. Mm-hmm. It's great for them. I don't want to do that. I don't want to engage in that economy. And so that would be one of my questions before I enlisted a coach is like, so is the product really you trying to get me to be a coach? Because I don't want to do that. Like I want you to actually coach what I want. Right. And so that's what we do. We go like, what do you want? Let me help you want it as much as you can. Yeah. And then we also don't prescribe anything. Like we never tell anybody to do anything. We invite people to examine what they want to be doing and aren't doing. And then the way I approach it is frankly as a storyteller, which is great. So what's the story that you would like to tell about your future? And now just be that hero, like be the person who lives into that story, and ask people how all right, so what's the next thing that you do? And what do you need to believe about that thing in order to make it attractive?
So it's kind of like you're helping them outline their 6-month, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. You're helping them write the story of how they want their life to play out.
Yeah. And then we do it. And so that's what's cool is like, my clients and I, we outline it, and they do that exact thing that you're talking about, is they kind of write the chapters, the paragraphs in the chapters of their coming life. And then usually what happens is they live into it way faster than they even planned they would.
Interesting.
So, excuse me, because we're all vastly underestimating what we're capable of.
I agree, 100%.
So
I feel like just a minimal effort towards like a well thought out goal, you'll always get there faster.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to create a cheat code for comedy for years, and it was only until I actually just started doing comedy that like the comedy thing started unlocking. Like I did create the podcast studio, and I did go on tour as a videographer, and people were like, "Wow, you're doing it." But it wasn't until I got on stage that the comedy started to unlock. So is part of the coaching, or at least in your world, is it like clearing away some of the brush of what you think you have to do to get to your next step, and then it's going like, well, all you really have to do is take this one step forward? Because sometimes I just need to hear that it's okay, or I found that recently, once I believe that I either deserve something or can have something, that I know that I can achieve it, then I find myself working harder towards that goal. Is that something that you find with your clients, that all they need is just to go like, you're in jail, but all you have to do is push it on the door. It's not locked.
Yeah, or even to reframe, like, are you in jail, or are you just in a really safe place that you have the key to, and it's worked really well for you? Jail has been great.
Right. Jail's fantastic.
You don't want to be there anymore.
Right.
So would you like to leave? Like, if you knew you could, would you like to? And sometimes they're like, no, or they're like, a little bit of jail and a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
Or to go, hey, look, well, let's thank jail. There were 3 meals and a library and lots of very friendly people that offered me all kinds of physical affection. And then like, let's move out into the world and like, go see what else there is.
Yeah. Here's your bus ticket.
Yeah. So like and you spoke a little bit about spiritual direction. And so one of the things that I love about it is that, with our method anyway, it harkens on a lot of just wisdom principles that I would say are at least biblical, if not also in numerous other ancient wisdom traditions. And so, the one I am most familiar with and rely on happens to be like Judeo-Christian, but it's like wisdom is wisdom. It's a little bit like physical laws,
right?
Where like these things, these ways of being just are, and they permeate. And so we take this idea of where you are and to give grace to where you are and not judge it, because especially for high performing people or people with lofty goals, we go like, I'm not where I should be. And we go, okay, where should you be? Because where you are is the only place that you can be.
Yeah.
So let's just do away with should. Let's, with grace, look at where you are and honestly evaluate it. Look at where you want to be and by when, and get really, really like concrete about it. Extremely specific. Where are you? When is this? Who's with you? What have you done? Like in my first conversation with people, I'll invite them to, we're having dinner a year from now. We're toasting champagne. Tell me what we're toasting. Like, what have you done in the last year that you cannot wait to tell me about? And then making it concrete and real. And then we have a gap. So we got really serious and clear on where we are now, and really serious and clear on where you want to be. And so we can actually count that, even for abstract things like a good relationship with your spouse, or like, I want to be a really, really funny comedian. Like, well, we can come up with a metric for that. Because any metric is better than no metric. And then when you see that gap, that's where you can relate to the gap. And so you can relate to it in terms of like, 3 shows a year versus 100 shows a year. That's 97 shows. Like, that's the gap. Oh, that's so much. Oh, that's impossible. Oh, that's intimidating. Oh, what if I fail? Right. And so that would be fear. Or you can go, wow, imagine how many people will get to see me in 97 shows. Oh, where might I go?
Right.
I haven't seen most of the country. That's going to be so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's love. And so you can pick which one.
Right.
And we approach it with grace. Like, we don't moralize it. So sometimes fear is great. Like, if there's a tiger chasing you, you don't want to necessarily relate to it with love unless you're a tiger trainer. And then maybe you do. Like, you want to go ahead and relate to it with fear and get away from the tiger. But because we're biological humans, we sense danger from change and from the unknown. We sense danger. And so this fear response happens. But we are humans, and so we can overcome our nature, and we can go, oh, I'm going to choose to love this. And then all of these little micro steps that you were talking about start becoming easy, because instead of a belief, because why would you do something, some micro step, if your belief about it is that it's terrifying and that it just leads to discomfort and failure, and that's awful, and it means I'm a bad person. Of course you're not going to do it.
Right.
But if your thought is oh, this is going to be exciting, I can't wait to see if this works, well, then it's easy. Why not?
Yeah. I fluctuate between those two thoughts, where especially with the podcast, it's I will procrastinate putting the episode out. If it's supposed to come out on a Wednesday, it's 11 o'clock at night when I'm editing on a Tuesday. And then I get, because it's a daunting task to think about, watching 2 hours of conversation, trying to find if there's a funny part to clip out. Is that clip going to go viral? So I don't have this mindset of I get to cut my own podcast. I have this mindset of if I don't do this, I'm not going to get to the next level in comedy, because I need viral clips. That's why I do the show. And it's just compounded into and I've read The War of Art. It is the resistance. It is procrastination, because if I don't do it, then maybe the next clip is the viral clip. It's Schrodinger's cat box thingy.
Yeah.
Where it's always the longer I put it off, the more that could be, tomorrow is the day that could change my life. But if I don't do it right now, then I still have the hope that tomorrow could change my life.
Yeah.
But I'll go through phases where I'm I got to get all this done, or I'm getting older. I have to, and then I'll go through ultra work phases where it's I get to do this. I'm up at 6. I'm working out. I'm doing healthy stuff. And I'm creating a ton of content, and I do see the needle move, or I do something, and then 3 months later I see the needle move in retrospect.
Yeah.
So what I'm personally going through, and what I need a coach for, is those slow phases where I'm tired and I just don't feel like it. How to motivate through those pauses of procrastination and resistance.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the several things that a coach will do for you, is just keep you accountable.
Yeah.
And that's what that's also what AA does for people. That's what writers groups do for people, is just having someone that is counting on it, depending on it, and going to hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But then it also changes, the way you relate to it is, and so again, we don't moralize it. We go, well, is fear more resourceful to you in this moment, or is love more resourceful to you? And the thing that both of your sort of oscillating approaches has in common is a very clear vision. Mm-hmm. You're I know where I want to go.
Right.
That's number one. That's a North Star. Without that, all of your effort is just sort of this meandering, you're just running. But you at least know, whether you're afraid or you're excited, you at least know where you're headed and why. Mm-hmm. And then the way that you get there, what's resourceful. And so for a while, my alarm when I would wake up to work out said, get up, you lazy bitch. And so I was to get up and work out before the kids woke up, so I could focus on it and not worry about dropping heavy equipment on them or whatever. Not very heavy equipment, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. But and that was resourceful in that season. And then it reached a point where I was hey, I should stop. I'm starting to actually feel good and look good. And so it changed to, good morning, you handsome beast.
Yeah.
So I just decided, try it on. Let's see if in this season, the love is going to get me in the gym, better. And then what it sometimes turns into, and this is what our coaching firm tries to coach towards, is instead of trying to see how you can be the best, is to see what we might be capable of. Check out our USA Today best-selling book, Beyond High Performance. And so that invitation to see what we're capable of, as I borrowed it from David Goggins, which is when he's like, who's going to carry the boats?
Who's going to carry the boats? Yeah.
And that's a we statement. So that's like, instead of going like, how can I be my best so that I feel good? It's like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm a coworker, I'm a creator, I'm a member of humanity. Like, who's going to carry the boats if I don't contribute, if I don't get up? And so it's got, that one occurs to me as having a little bit of both. There's a little bit of love and a little bit of hate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not hate, but fear. And it's looped into, what are we capable of? Like, if I get there, we might carry the boat into the future.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. You got me on a rant, buddy.
No, it's good. That sparks the thought of like, I don't have any doubt in my mind that if I apply the correct amount of work, that it will get to where I want to go in my comedy career or in any career that I pick. My fear that I'm having this thought now is that my journey will end in the middle of the process and it will all have been for no reason. Like, I'll get hit by a bus, or 25 years of smoking is going to catch up with me, or an accident happens and I put in all this effort to get where I want to go, and for some reason, the fear is not achieving the goal. I know I can achieve the goal if I put in enough work. The fear is like, I did all this and it got cut short, and then there's this half-ass attempt on the internet of me trying to become something, and I get left in the lurch. And I'm just realizing that right this second.
Yeah. Well, because like, what's your option?
The option for me now is to stay comfortable in the film business and continue to direct and be an assistant director or write or produce films and make a very comfortable living, or go start a whole new career at 44 and be broke. Not necessarily broke, but make a lot less money, try and reduce my outgoing bills and start a whole new attempt at what I consider to be one of the hardest art forms in the world.
Well, so then what happens if that other option, the staying comfortable thing, what happens if that one gets cut off early?
It did. We went on strike this year. We got a pandy. Like, I've looked down the barrel of never being able to work again. And I fortunately had podcasting and comedy to fall back on.
I mean the death one, if sitting back and being comfortable, if that ends early because you died, you got hit by a bus, or 25 years of smoking caught up to you.
Yeah.
Well, then what?
I don't look at it as a public attempt, right? So like, there's a million ADs, there's a million directors, right? There's a million writers. Yeah. Just another guy that came and went in Hollywood. But like, when I look at my public facing community, where I look at me, I'm trying, because we have such a society of like, look at this, try hard. You want to try hard without looking like you're trying too hard. It needs to look effortless, but you need to put in more work than everybody else. You want to be called a hardworking fella. It's just this weird dichotomy. I feel like I'm making a bunch of excuses. But what happens if the AD thing or the directing thing gets cut short? It doesn't, for some reason, doesn't bother me at all. It seems like I would start a life. I would probably get married, have kids, just work to survive, provide for my family, have a nice little home unit, and be content with that. But if my public facing option is my whole life is an open book, everybody gets to see everything that I do. I'm on stage all the time. The show is highly visible. People go through the backlog. They learn a whole ton of shit about me. It's just
Have people done that?
Some people have done a little digging, but it's probably time to take season 1 off the internet. There's some stuff in there that's just idiotic that it doesn't need to be shared on the internet. I was learning how to podcast as opposed to now having 120, 130 episodes out.
So it sounds like the principal difference for you is the public nature of what you're considering failure.
Yeah, totally. And I also didn't mean to turn this into a free coaching session. So we can definitely have the rest of this conversation offline in an actual coaching world session where I pay you your rate. But
there you go.
I think we proved in the last 15 minutes that you're obviously very good at it. But can we go back and touch on like how, like you said, you had some friends that inquired about coaching and then it was legit, so then you gave it a shot. Was the first coach that you tried, did that stick, or did you shop around a few coaches?
I did not engage in coaching in my own life until I was doing the training, and at which point they coach you as you're learning to coach, in like an apprentice, like a mentor apprentice kind of thing. But what I did have was a long history in personal development, like discipleship. I was in a lot of groups, particularly like faith groups with men. I did a lot of like people that were curious about faith and things like that. I would lead those discussion groups. And so I had context for what constituted like edifying, respectful, uplifting experiences. And so I had some experience in that arena. But no, I did not shop around to a bunch of different coaches. I do have what I feel is like a pretty finely tuned bullshit detector. And I really like to break things. Like I really, really love questioning institutions. I love questioning authority. I love questioning what people consider true. Like I really try to break stuff. And so my poor mentor, like every time she would bring in like a new tool or a new teaching or a new principle, I'd be like, I would just run it through my own tests of reason to try to break it as hard as possible.
And everything stood up. Was there anything that broke?
There's one thing that's very foundational that I'm kind of toying with, but yeah, for the most part, everything stood up to the test. And partially because it's not prescriptive, it is a suggestion. Most of what we do is we're not saying that it's like capital T true. We're saying, what if this is resourceful to get you closer to where you're going? And so far it has been. There are a couple of things. There's a book called The 3 Laws of Performance. Mm-hmm. Awesome book. And the first law in there, I would love to push and pull on, particularly as an artist, because the first law is that I guess it's not the first law. The first law is that everyone behaves according to how the world occurs to them, which is sort of like, we all live in our subjective observation of reality. That if you just think of that old fable of like the blind guys and the elephant, it's kind of like that. Like we're all interpreting the world with our own narrative and our own senses. And so I would challenge the idea that there's no objective reality. I think there is obviously an objective reality, but that most of what we're dealing with as humans is the subjective reality that we're creating based on our experience of that subjective reality, right? Objective reality.
Okay.
And then the second law is all occurrence is rooted in language, which occurs to me as getting a little close to like a postmodernist, like a, Jacques Derrida, like philosophy of relating to the world that create like, not all, to me, I don't think all occurrence is rooted in language. I actually think language is emergent to help us understand how things are occurring. Language might be the most concrete and pragmatic way for occurrence to cement itself and be transmittable between humans.
Right.
But as an artist, like, I don't know if you've ever asked a poet, like, so explain this poem to me. And they're like, read the poem.
Right.
Like,
yeah, or like, what's this song about?
That is,
yeah,
exactly. What's the song about? Listen to the song.
Yeah.
And it's the same with a painting or something. Like, describe this painting to me. It's like, look at it.
Right.
And then you describe it to me,
Which is
so there's
not to cut you off, but the one thing that kind of stopped me from continuing in my wood art business as an artist was that with potential showings in galleries, the gallery owner or the art or reseller or whatever was like, well, what's the meaning behind this piece? And if you didn't have some well-oiled position on it, then they were like, I don't know if we're going to show this. And it's like, can't you just interpret this art? No one is making this. This is different. This is I don't know. It just, if it wasn't like, oh, well, this is a study in the smell of rhinoceros farts and in the southern region of France and why it means something to the 1800s, like without that bullshit, it's like, can we not just make something and have people go, I like it? And you don't have to have a reason why you like it, or any emotion. You don't have to like it. You don't have to hate it, but feel something. That's all I want you to do. If I create something, just move someone else in some way.
It's a message. It's a disruption in what's expected that elicits response. And that response, it might create language in the person. Like they might use language to try and capture what that response is, but there's like a millisecond in there where there's just the response, there's just the experience before it, like, I don't know, it's like the Big Bang, like before it all concretizes into elements, like there's something. Not all occurrence is rooted in language. That's the thing I'm playing with as far as like trying to break these coaching tools.
Sure.
And it reminds me of like another, I was thinking about the idea of beauty, and we have this idea, or you hear people say like, oh, I dress this way because I feel beautiful when I look this way, or I dress this way for me, or I like, or whatever. And the idea that beauty without a beholder, if beauty is in the eye of the beholder, like, is beauty without being beheld beauty? It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Right.
Like, and the answer to the tree in the forest is that there is always someone there to hear it. And so a tree falling makes sound because there's consciousness to hear it. Otherwise it doesn't matter. And beauty without being beheld, there is always a beholder, and the purpose of beauty is to be beheld.
Right.
And in which case, no one gets to tell anyone else what's beautiful. The beholder gets to decide. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting when we agree on what has been beheld. Hey, I think that looks really great. I think that sounds really good. And that's how I think we form friendships and relationships, is when we have similar beholdings. Like everybody who likes U2 is going to Vegas to watch them in the Dome right now. They're all having a similar experience. They all enjoy that music. There are some people who would behold U2 and go, their music is dog shit. Sorry, John Harden. And that's how I personally feel. I'm not a big U2 fan, but people are paying thousands of dollars to go and behold it in a communal setting. So I think that's how we form our villages and our groups and our friend groups and our structures and our...
Yeah, but interestingly, you just quoted a mutual friend who has the complete opposite stance on you too, and you have a friendship. And so, like, I wonder, what the percentage of things that you need to overlap in order to have a friendship, and the percentage of things that must not overlap so that your friendship can stay interesting.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know that you thought U2 was dog shit.
Are we not friends anymore?
So now I'm going to sign off, and so, but like, so that elicits interest. Like, oh, let's fight about that in a way that's not going to come to blows, because I just don't care about U2 enough.
Right. Which is also interesting. Like, what things do overlap or don't overlap that we are willing to come to blows over, which is, I think, lends us into the politics, which we can't get into right now because we're kind of at the end of our session, but which I should have said episode, but it feels like a session. All fascinating things that I don't think we'll be able to find the end of in this episode. But I felt like there was one other thing we wanted to touch on before we got out of here, We talked about the book, we talked about storyboarding, and we talked about coaching.
Yeah, do you like we could talk a little bit about the strikes if that was useful, or like I wrote down some things that like I've been thinking about lately or that I'm up to. Like I'm excited for movies to start happening again. I don't know, like it seems like movies are not going yet to me, or maybe I'm just not being included.
I think everything that was like ready to go and start filming has fired back up. For example, a friend of mine's in the wardrobe department on a bunch of television shows. Not a bunch, but she works in wardrobe. She's firing back up to do prep next week.
Okay, cool.
But she hasn't got any movie offers.
Yeah, see, I get the sense. So when the writers' strike ended, I got like hammered with availability emails, and the sense was like, oh, the writers are done, and the actors are coming to the table like right after. Like we almost have this sorted. And then when it became clear that the actors were not coming back to the table, everything went like and like bled back out. Yeah. And that was, I think, if memory serves, that was in Q3. And then the rest of the deals didn't get made until Q4. And so the story that I'm inventing about it, and I have zero credibility here, but I'm just curious if it resonates, or maybe it's true and someone will write in and tell us, is that once we got into Q4, all the companies were like, well, the actors will come back to promote all of our shit that we made already, so we can make money on that, and we can just go ahead and file the losses for the year on everything else. And so I feel like the big companies are like, well, now it's already Q4, like 2023 is a wash, and so Q1 of 24 will get started. And I don't know.
I have mixed feelings about the strike. My core feeling about the strike is that if your actions affect many people that don't eat at your table, then you stay at the negotiating table and you figure it out. I think a lot of people got hurt. I'm one of them. Yeah. I'm kind of bitter about it. I don't have a dog in the writer's fight, and I don't have a fucking dog in the actor's fight. And I don't think that our work should have slowed down. So if I have to suffer financially because you just don't, I can't negotiate. Well, fucking figure it out. Like, so I have a lot of built up resentment about the strike because of how closely it came after the 2 years of Pandy. That, we still worked through Pandy, but we didn't work the same. It's never been the same since March 2020. The volume of work, so we're just getting back into the flow, and then you want to shut it down. I don't know. That's where my resentment builds up. But now that we're back, all strikes are over. I am just now getting phone calls. So I worked 2 days last week. I'm going to work tomorrow. I've got something next week, and I'm able to pick and choose and squeeze dates on the 2 or 3 days that I'm home from my comedy tour, and fill in those dates. So it seems like we're back, but I do think I just solely work in commercials by choice, and I think we're ramping up for last minute holiday shit, and we're getting in all the Super Bowl commercials we didn't shoot. So this is typically a busy time for the year for us. My January is almost always filled with like catalog and viral content shoots for clothing lines. So I anticipate a pretty great January. But I can't really speak to movies. It's just it's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was doing movies, and they were cruising, and worked through I worked through a lot of the pandemic because storyboards are often vis effects, and vis effects don't need to stop. And like animation, I don't know if you like had any buddies in animation, but like animation blew up in the pandemic, and because it was friendly to the restrictions. And but I also have really mixed feelings about, frankly, I have mixed feelings about unions, which is funny because like I'm in a couple of them, and one of the great things that we did get to do is go do a presentation with the Art Directors Guild for union members in the middle of the strike. And we got to have, as coaches, like, it was cool to get to be there like as a senior illustrator with the local 800, and as a coach to offer people, I don't know, here's some tools to reframe the situation in a way that isn't just devastation, because I too was devastated. Like my coaching income is not what full-time movie senior illustrator union income is.
Right.
And I don't know, I would love to get back on, like, let's just do super like contentious topics like politics, union, religion, like all this stuff you're not supposed to talk about at a friendly dinner. Like that would be fun.
That's why we have podcasts. That's what moves the needle. It's like, this guy's got an opinion on it. I agree with him. I'm going to listen to him every week. And I've been guilty of just trying to stay middle of the road and trying to appease everyone. And it doesn't, I'm now ready to just put my opinion out there. And if you agree with me, great. And if you don't, you can tune out. So
yeah. And I also, I'm interested in, I similarly like, and that's one of the beautiful things about the strike is I've figured out that like, oh, if you starve me, I'm actually going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so all the times that I was worried about saying something that I thought was true and chose silence over truth, I didn't need to do that, because if it upset somebody enough to try to starve me, it's not going to work.
Right.
And now that I know that, and to know that there's more people that kind of think similarly than I thought there were, because we all collectively are starting to go, oh, I'm not going to starve necessarily, or like a little hunger isn't that bad.
Yeah.
I don't feel the same level of anxiety and tension and hostility that I once did. And so, yeah, and also, especially from engaging with coaching work, I don't assume that I'm right anymore either.
Right.
And so I like, what I'm interested in is someone who does completely disagree with me and is also interested in, like, let's talk about you too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, are they complete dog shit? Well, maybe they've got one or two bangers.
They're great. I just don't like that they were put on my phone against my will. I want to listen to them when I want to listen to them, and I can't figure out how to get them off my phone. I'm 4 phones away from the phone they put them on, and it's still in there. I don't even use iTunes. I'm a Spotify guy. U2 is still in my phone.
Would you describe that as a U2 mandate?
Yeah, I mean, U2 is the coronavirus shot of the audio world.
There you go. Like, yeah, I just don't like being compelled to do things.
Yeah. I was going to quote one of their songs, and it just eluded me. And I still can't, whatever. The Still song, whatever. I do, but oddly enough, if someone was like, hey, I got tickets to the Dome thingy because they have a residency, the funny thing is that this Dome cost $2 billion to make.
Yeah.
And the U2, the 52 show U2 residency is going to pay the Dome off.
Wow.
It's nuts. $400,000 you can advertise on the Dome for a whole week.
Wow.
Maybe when you launch your book, it's just wrap the sphere.
Yeah. If we hit like all those stretch goals, we'll put a dinosaur on the Dome. How about that?
What do you get? What are the tiers for the fundraising for the Dino tasks? You
can just pledge some money and throw some cash at it.
Yeah.
A couple bucks if you love it. You can get a copy on PDF anywhere in the world for like $9, I think, is the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just print your own or read it on your iPad or whatever. I think it's $24 gets you the hardcover book. It'll be signed because my signature is worth so much. But it will be.
It is. It's worth money now.
You can get a slight discount on 2 books at once. And then you can also, if you're really feeling crazy, you can get one of the storyboard artists from King Kong versus Godzilla and the Minecraft movie to do a portrait of you as a dinosaur along with your book. And that one is, I think it's a $220 pledge. And then if you're really feeling crazy, you can name the dinosaur in book 2 it's a pretty big pledge. And then the goals, what do they call them?
The tiers?
No, the tiers. Yeah, the stretch goals.
Mm.
If we get a certain one, I'm going to do like colorable pages that will come along with the book.
Oh, that's
you can
cool.
like print out, PDFs of like they'll be made with like really strong outlines so that it's like easy to color. Then the next one will be stickers, like Dino Duty stickers.
Yeah.
Kids. I don't know if you know this about kids, but they're really into stickers.
Adults are too. That's my only merch. I have stickers, and people go ape shit for stickers.
They love them.
Yeah.
They love them. I did this like charity work in Nairobi, and we would give these kids like little toys or whatever, or we would give them stickers, and they could care less about the toys. They went bananas for stickers. It's like sticker based economy. And then the final one, if we hit like our final goal, it'll be that chore chart because that'll be a whole different printer. That'll be a whole other product process that we'll have to do. But if we hit that stretch goal, we'll do a chart where you can like customize your dino duties and put it up on the wall for your own kid.
That's awesome.
Thanks,
Micah, I could talk to you for hours, but I think you and I are both at the extent of our availability today.
Yeah, man.
This is a fascinating conversation.
I'm on Dayquil right now. So
are you? Do you not feel well?
I don't. I'm all jacked up on not antidepressants, but on whatever.
Same. I just chugged a coffee. I had a 14-hour travel day back from the East Coast. Yesterday, I got home at 11 o'clock last night, and I woke up to an alarm that said, get to the studio and talk to Micah. Micah Brenner. Please follow Micah on all of his things. Give the Kickstarter some love and drop some money in there if you have kids. Even if you don't have kids and you want kids in the future and you want them to do their dino duties.
There you go. That's right. Sow the seeds that you want to see in the world.
I want to talk to you offline about coaching. You sold me. I don't think I could ever be sold, but you put it in words that I think could help me get to the next step, which is why I think you are here today, but also to promote the things that you have going on. Guys, check out Micah everywhere, at MICAH Brenner. That's the handle?
No, it is at bullethead_art on Instagram. It is at Dino Duties, all one word, on Instagram.
Okay.
Or MICAH-Brenner.com online.
And that's the portal to everything.
Yeah.
You got links to all the socials on there.
Yeah. Hopefully. That'll get you there. MICAH-Brenner.com or bulletheadart.com.
Great. Micah, it was lovely connecting with you. Thank you for your time. And we will hopefully talk to you soon. Yeah, brother. Good to see you. You too. You too? Whatever. You too. Yeah. Dog shit. Yeah. All right, we'll see you next time, everybody.